Uh, I would say doing the right thing for people. Yeah, that's pretty much the direction I wanted to go in, and the direction I did go in. I was born in Jamaica Hospital in New York, in Queens County, New York, on October 12th, 1921. And my father worked at that time in the uh, postal system, in the General Post Office in New York, traveled in every day, worked at night most of the time. I went to elementary school in Brooklyn. I remember being a child there and playing in the street with my friends. And then I followed my brother to Erasmus Hall High School. I went to Brooklyn College and graduated in June of 1941. And I was admitted to University of Pennsylvania Dental School and went there in September of 1941. And in December, when we entered the war, I was accepted as I guess it was a junior officer in the second year in dental school, and graduated as a lieutenant, first lieutenant, in 1945, I guess. I had a 30-day leave, which I spent at home, and then I went with one of my classmates, Vic Boris, to Kentucky to my first post. And then I was transferred overseas. I sailed on the APA 52, which was an attack transport. And I don't know where we were scheduled or when, but it was somewhere in the invasion.
And you all knew that?
We were told that, yes.
That you guys were massing to invade Japan?
Yeah.
And did you all know what the invasion of Normandy had been like by then?
Not really.
So maybe you weren't aware of how nasty it was going to be.
No, we were not.
You didn't really think about it?
No.
Just figured that's what you were going to do?
Yeah, we just figured that's where we were and that's where we were going. and what would be would be.
And you were what, 23?
23. I finally ended up in Luzon in the Philippines, Leyte, and then Luzon in the Philippines, and then Osaka, where I spent much of the time, and Nara, where I practiced dentistry for the Army, Army Dental Clinic in Nara. Then at that point, I was mustered out of the Army in the beginning of 1947, and came home and went into practice with my brother, who had become a dentist, and we practiced in Brooklyn for a while. And then I went into practice in Manhattan with Martin Goldwasser, who was in an office on 73rd Street and Broadway. And I also worked at a dental clinic on 46th Street in Manhattan, at which I met Nan as a patient, then subsequently did a lower right third molar horizontal impaction extraction, and I believe it was after that I asked her to pose for us at the Brooklyn Institute of Arts and Sciences Department of Photography, where I was a member, and she posed for us, and subsequently I dated her and ultimately married her. She asked me to come to her house, and there were a few guys there, and we spoke for a little while, and subsequently I asked her to go sailing with me, and she came sailing with me, and we spent a lot of time together. Peter figured in that relationship, and I liked him, and we spent some time at Fire Island together, and I enjoyed that. And eventually I decided that I'd better ask her to marry me, otherwise she'd get bored and leave me eventually, and I didn't want that. So I asked her, and her response was, "I'll have to think about it." And she thought about it for a short while and said yes, she'd marry me. And that was along about Christmas, and we got married in March of the following year, March 14th of the following year. First, we went on our honeymoon to Havana, to Florida, and then Cuba. And then that summer, we went to Europe for 7 weeks with Peter and Louise Delara, who was his little friend at that time. We enjoyed a lovely 7 weeks in Europe, and then came back. Finally, Nan got pregnant with you, John, and you were born the following August. The summer of, I think it was 61, we had a visit in Fire Island by our friend Nat Goldstein, and it was raining, and he said, "Do you like Fire Island? Do you like the beach?" We said yes. He said, "Do you like the rain?" We said no. He said, "Why don't you come to California?" And we looked at each other and said, "Should we?" And shortly after that, I came to California and studied for the board, and took the board and passed it first time. And it was shortly after that we moved to, Los Feliz. And we stayed there for 6 months and then moved to Encino. And we stayed in Encino, and I practiced in Lakewood, and I also opened an office in Granada Hills in the Valley until I sold that practice and retired, and enjoyed life in Encino until I retired and we moved to San Diego, where we spent 10 years very comfortably in Encinitas. Photography was my first hobby, and I became pretty good at that. I attempted flying for a while. That's going back a way, and I more or less learned to fly and flew, but never soloed. I couldn't pass the physical, though I tried. I loved to play tennis, played tennis a lot. We visited most of the continents. We visited Africa and Asia and Europe, of course, and some of South America and some of Central America, as well as a good deal of North America. Maybe I would have gotten asked Nan to marry me earlier. I don't know whether she was ready to, but I might have asked her earlier. Other than that, I can't think of anything that I would have done differently. Maybe gone to California a little earlier, taken the board earlier. But it all worked out well.